All right, let's get to the. I had a couple. I forgot to bring this up last week. I want to get Konnan's thoughts on a couple of these because Dave had tweeted some stuff last week, and I liked a couple of the tweets. I wanted to read them because I thought it was interesting his perspective, right?
Right.
And I want to get your opinion on some of these because he was because one of them like is exactly what we've talked about repeatedly on the show, and you'll be surprised to hear. I don't think you'll be surprised to hear Dave tweet this, or actually that Dave said this, but this is interesting, right? Let me go here to. I'm gonna start with this one. So there's an account called Meltzer said what on a thing that's like has like just a lot of Dave quotes, right?
I feel that. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So some guy tweeted this last week. How much Tony Khan have to snip before he either came up with or allowed the idea of someone a quarter the size of Joe kicking out of one of the most devastating looking signature moves in the business? Okay, that was like a tweet. So Dave quote tweeted that. Said nothing worse to see in a crowd. They're talking about the spot with Hogan Joe. Right. Nothing worse to see in a crowd explode. Sorry you missed the goal of wrestling, which it doesn't hit that often. And Joe won. So he accomplished getting Joe over and telling a story that helped Hook and losing, right? So the Meltzer said what went back and found this from the Wrestling Observer back in the day. This is Dave's report of The Rock versus Hogan at Toronto. Okay, Rock hit a rock bottom and then a second one before hitting the people's elbow for the pin. The crowd largely cheered Rock's people's elbow when he won, and you could see almost everyone standing and cheering. Hogan sold his ribs. Hall and Nash at the ring and attacked Hogan, but Rock made the save. Rock then told Hogan to pose, and he tore the house down. As mentioned earlier, this is a match that was probably great live, but won't hold up. It was similar to Hogan Warrior in Toronto from a storyline, but Hogan Warrior had far less sloppiness and missed spots. But this match had more consistent action and less resting, while it was Warrior's legendary cardio we're dealing with. And Hogan Warrior was 3 3/4 stars to me watching it, and a week later watching a replay, felt embarrassed because it didn't hold up. Years later, it looked awful. Just like watching back all those Jim Duggan tapes when he was super over in Mid-South and going, how can I not realize how bad this guy was? Remember how we talked about that? Right. Like I said, there was a saying for the Smartboard community that they just like, but the funny thing is Dave is like admitting that he was wrong about wrestling back in the day. Like it's about the guys are getting huge pops. They're not bad workers. They're obviously doing something right because you're getting huge pops. And everybody wants to get huge pops, and Duggan used to get huge pops, you know? So what do you think about that? That he actually talked about Duggan like that we've spoken about before, you know?
Yeah, because he's in the work rate.
Right.
He thinks that the end all and be all, but it isn't. It doesn't matter how hard you work or how good you work. If the people aren't entertained, they're not reacting. And we see that a lot of times. There's a lot of people that go out there, you know, Dusty was a guy that I wouldn't consider a great worker, right? But if he was super over,
right?
You know, Ultimate Warrior was not a good worker. He was super over and sold a lot of merch. You know what I'm saying? And that's what you're looking for. You're looking for Ultimate Warrior. You're looking for Dusty Rhodes. You know what I'm saying? The people people want to go see you. You know, attractive.
Right. But the problem is, and it still hasn't changed to this day. Okay. That this fan base, like this echo chamber of the smart mark wrestling community that's like the epicenter of professional wrestling these days, the super marks, right? They still would rather see two technically good wrestlers like their favorites that aren't as over as two guys that are super over but aren't as technically proficient. They'd rather see the latter match.
Right. But I feel, we also got to keep into perspective, and I was thinking about this yesterday. So everything is so niche today. So you'll have if let's say an anime show, right, has 500,000 followers. Well, with those 500,000 followers, they can make a living. And then you have another show, you know, like, hey, Pop My Pitbulls or whatever it's called. You know, they got 800,000 followers. That's all they need. Maybe you have another thing, Burt Metal Band. They have 50,000 following, but they buy all their merch. They go to all their shows. They're super dedicated. Everything's very niche. And in wrestling, you have this hardcore community who, for them, you know, unless it's a Japanese wrestler or it's a very technical match, it isn't a good match. But that's just you know what I'm saying? It's a very niche within a niche crowd. You know, the casual fan, you know, they're popping when they're seeing, you know, Dominic go out there and get his heat or, you know what I'm saying? That's what they like, you know, and that's what gets over. And that's what you need your hardcore fans are going to be, they're going to complain about everything, you know. My hardcore fans at AAA are just as worse as the AEW. They think they know it all, you know, but they don't. That's the funny part. They don't. Because when I've talked to them in person, or I had a podcast in Spanish called Boom, and I had a couple of them on, and I just emasculated them. And I'm going to throw this out there. The guys from Lucha Blog, somebody sent me this, that they said that I had never invited them on their show. I'm going to say this one more time. Cubs fan, I've invited you on your show via Rob Viper. He said you weren't interested. And I invited you, Rob Viper, with the big mouth. And you said that I never invited you. I'm inviting you on my show, either one of you, and we can discuss Lucha.
Do this show, get those guys' contacts, and invite them formally through email, okay? And we'll publicly and formally inviting these guys on the show, all right?
Now,
okay, go ahead, Joe.
No. I didn't know if you were moving on to the mailbag. Go ahead.
Okay, no, there's one other, because this
yes.
Okay, you know, did Dave constantly try to say that he does not stand for AEW, like he's impartial and stuff like that, right? I want to give you this exchange. You tell me if this is impartial, and I think this is a disingenuous argument from Dave. If he's supposed to be the paper of record and trying to like being honest in the conversation, I think he's being dishonest here, right? I'm gonna give you the exchange.
Right.
So a guy puts I think, let me find the original thing that Dave said here. So this, I want to give you this exchange, and then the last part is the one I want to talk about. So Dave was on these, bro, he tweets these guys are like, you know, the biggest difference between Raw and AEW at the moment is Triple H is running WWE and Tony is running AEW, is it not? The Dave quote tweets, the difference is one company spends at least $800 million more per year and has a 67-year head start. You reverse budgets of the other guy, WWE, and the situation isn't reversing. Perfect example. Vince is no longer in power, and the guy in charge is a manual. No experience in wrestling. Will WWE profit margin collapse this year? No, quite the opposite. So then the guy responds to that using WWE guys to brag about beating the WWE developmental show. Or actually, no, hang on, no. So the next comment it made is when Tony ran AEW and Triple H ran NXT. Oh no, here we go. If you swap positions and Tony ran WWE and Triple H ran AEW, does he have Rob Gordon? Do you know Rob? Is that Rob Gordon? Does that sound familiar? Is that a name that's in the wrestling industry?
I don't know.
He's tweeted, if you swap positions and Tony ran WWE and Triple H ran AEW, then the gap in the ratings would significantly reduce. Most of WWE is taking a big drop because Tony books for a very niche audience and would drive away loads. Raw would be around the 1 million mark and SmackDown would be near 1.5. Then Dave tweeted that when Tony ran AEW and Triple H ran NXT, how did that gap do? So then the guy responds like, oh, so AEW main program versus WWE third brand. Then Dave said, this is, I think Dave's being dishonest, right? This is how he responds to that. The guy in charge of, quote, WWE developmental show, quote, told me over and over it wasn't developmental. And when you look at who he had in main events, they were all either stars who had made their names worldwide or similar XPWG super workers.
What?
Okay. Oh, only ones who were Ripley and Cross. Look at every takeover main event from the era. Okay. All right. Dude, it's like, come on. Everybody and their mother in the business knows that the WWE NXT show is a developmental brand. The guys literally, half the performers on that show literally spend a week in wrestling school. Then they do the show. It's like, come on. Like, you're trying to tell me it's not, like, just because the guy said it's like, that's not a developmental, he's trying to put over the show as like, this is not our rookie show. You know, they're trying to make it like sound more important, but the fact of the matter is that's exactly what that show is. It's a developmental brand for the guys in the school to do the shows live on TV every week.
Right. And it's a play, for example, those like if they don't have anything to do with them in the main roster, they'll send them down there and see like Barry Corbin, you know, or like the two guys from or the two guys from LWO, Benicio del Toro, or whatever. And,
bro, it's literally they operated like a boxing gym. Okay, all the guys you get your two people signed up for the gym. They're the same size. You stick them in the ring with each other. They start fighting. We teach them to fight each other.
I consider it more like either baseball, where you have that's the AAA system. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Or like that. What was that reality show they had at UFC? What they called it again?
Ultimate Fighter.
Ultimate Fighter. Like women of Ultimate Fighter went to the main roster. The guy from NXT go to the main roster. NXT not the main roster.
Right.
It's SmackDown and Raw.
Right. Exactly. And then so it's like it's a developmental brain, and they'll bring in. It's like my boxing analogy. This is what I want to mean. Like when you talk about like Baron Corbin going down.
Right.
If you've got a guy that's like excelling in your, the thing, bro, you'll bring in like a guy that used to be like a former champion or something, come in and spar with the guy. Like come in with like, hey, you're a veteran. Hey, come in here, work with this guy, stuff like, right. That's my point. It's like, but once you get up to the main roster, it's like everybody works each other because you've gone through this system.
Everybody knows.
Right.
Bro, come on, Dave. Everybody knows, but NXT is developmental.
Right.
The referees and the referees and the fans.
Right.
I will tell you this. I've been watching NXT every week. They had a lot of people that are ready to be big stars in WWE. And then they have a lot of women, really a lot of women that are really good.
Really? Right.
Well, this is from Dave today, D. I want to read this. And Konnan, I'll take this.
And AEW, they don't really have a developmental, right?
Not a dark.
It was the dark, but the dark wasn't even. It wasn't even developmental. They were just giving these people 2 to 3 minute squash matches against indie, like indie talent, which is not necessarily learning anything from that. Go ahead,
Konnan, do me a favor. I just have one idea about this. Grab your microphone, right? Grab it where it's inserted. Does it feel like it's locked in, or can you pull it right out?
It's locked in.
Okay. It's locked in? Okay. I just wanted to check that. All right. So Dave said, and this came from Reddit, but it was from the most recent Observer Radio. He says, AEW attendance is not good. One of the things is like there was a lot of weak advances in the last quarter, but they had a lot of shows where they got late buys, whether it was bringing in Okada or Mystico or having an MJF or Kenny Omega match or good local promotion or lowering ticket prices, things like that. I kind of got lulled into this sense of, okay, the advances suck, but it's not that bad. And it really wasn't that bad the last quarter, but now it's that bad and it looks worse. Wednesday's show, they're under 2,000. To me, under 4,000 for Dynamite is where it gets to be below so-so. 4,000 is fine to me for AEW. Under 4,000, not so great. Under 3,000, pretty bad. Under 2,000 is really bad, especially when you're coming to a city once a year. You're getting now to WCW 2,000. And people hate when I use that term, but they're getting there, and that's a scary place to be.
Well, there is Savannah this week. That's a terrible March. We've never, even when WCW was hot, we went to Savannah, it wasn't sold out, it wasn't live, the crowd was... it's a coastal town.
What did it like WCW 2000?
WCW 2000. I guess
WCW 2000.
Right. Yeah. Well, but
comparing that to AEW or WWE?
AEW now. Yeah.
AEW. Right. I'm gonna give you
bro. He's done. They're not doing good attendance wise. That's not good.
This is how bad their attendance was. Brian Last and Cornette said on their show they did this analysis, right?
Right.
They went to all the Dynamites and Collisions from 2023. All right, the live in the arena shows, and they for the shows that were set up like that you have like the amount of seats in an arena, the amount of seats you could do. How many? I'm going to ask you this, Konnan. Out of 77 shows, how many shows between Dynamite and Collision out of 77 in 2023 do you think that AEW had above 50% capacity out of 77?
I'll say 30%.
2, not 2%. 2 out of 77 shows were above 50% arena capacity.
Whoa,
bro! And I'm just, like we said about how long we've been saying this for years. You have to grow your fan base because you're not going to have people to come to your live events and sit in the seats.
And now the numbers are proving what we said.
Of course, and then the WWE's been like
everything we said from year one that we were getting dragged for a bitter old man and looking for working off. I mean, to fruition,
right?
and we were never hating, we were just stating,
right?
Well, and this is 20 years. Like
Right.
we don't know.
This is the single biggest mistake a promoter can make. Okay, is not listening to not listening to your audience in the arena, listening to your general audience. Okay, listening to people's criticism of why they didn't like the show. Okay, because those are people that are watching your show that if you keep digging into things that they're disliking, they're probably not going to watch the show. Okay, which has been happening with that product. The problem is you have the smart mark fan base. Those people, regardless of whether the show is sports entertainment, whatever, if it's corny, whatever it is, they'll watch the show every single week, regardless of the content that you provide on that show. Like they're hardcore fans, they don't miss a show. You do not have to book for those fans. Like it's the worst thing you could do is book for those fans because then they're going to stranglehold on your show. And like the voices of the people that are saying, hey, we don't like this stuff. They said, but we do. It's like, well, they're going to watch the show, but I don't want to them off. That's the worst attitude you can take as a promoter, like not wanting to, or upset your fans that are going to be viewing the show every single week to try to get new fans to watch the show, which is what they still have not done. And they will, hopefully these next 4 years, if they go 4 years, they'll learn that formula. You need to listen to the constructive criticism because WWE did, and look what's happened to them. They doubled the. I mean, they have competition and they're performing record business. That's since the competition came. It's unbelievable, right? And then before the competition, how awful was that show?
Yeah.
How hard was it to watch?
Yep. Unwatchable.
Pretty much, right? All right, let's get to the mail. That's a good discussion.